Man, and what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Highlights. Probably the funniest show in sports, but I won't let you be the judge of it. As always, I'm your guy, MP. That guy, hold on, that guy over there, that's the world champion, Cullen Jenkins, Big Jinx, with that picture over there, him slaughtering somebody, man. And that Matt Ryan,
Yeah,
oh man, you killing Matt Ryan, dude. Why are you doing that to Matt Ryan, man? Why are you posting him up? What did he owe you money?
nah, it was just my job, That's it. It's my job. So I had to go and do my job, keep my employment.
And then you got somebody holding on your leg like you owe him money.
Yeah,
Oh man, but that's okay, man. But great picture, great picture. You know me, I'm representing my people back there, the Oakland no, the Las Vegas Raiders. Excuse me, people. That's probably a fine on my part, and I'm gonna have to pay my fine up there. I'll get my envelope, my FedEx in the mail. But man, we had a great wait. I started that sentence wrong. We did not have a great Super Bowl. Probably had a great Super Bowl weekend, and the game was subpar. So what we're going to do right now, we're going to go in the chat room and talk about what things happened this weekend. So, man, the Chiefs came up short. We're not going to say short. We're going to go to Bewick. It's short, 31-9, and man, that was a lackluster game.
it it was so disappointing. I was going in and I was pulling for Tampa. I wanted to see him get a win, and especially JPP. One of my old teammates, one of my good friends. Everything that he's been through and overcoming his career. To see the way he's playing and still performing at such a high level with all that he's been through. I was rooting for Tampa to win, but I thought it was going to at least be a close game. I was expecting a shootout. I was
Right.
expecting, the points to get rolling, and it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a matter of who made the first mistake, but man, Tampa did not make many mistakes, if any at all, that game.
You know what? And that's what I was going to ask you. And I'm glad you brought up that point. It just looked like they were flawless. And we both know that when it comes to a football game, that it's just not one individual that makes you, that puts you into the winning column, that it's a team effect. But every part of that thing just looked like a well-oiled machine. And like you said, it's some guys up there with some age on them. And Dominic Sue, he's not a young guy. JPP not young at all. We know the old man River, Tom Brady. He is not the youngest a man in any damn sport. Hell, and even Gronk. I mean, hell, he retired from the game and he came back out there looking like, why did you ever leave the game? I looked at it, Jink. I was pulling for him myself because as I think I told you before, I was looking forward to Kansas City being knocked down a couple of pegs. So they thought that they were just this Maserati and they looked more like a 1975 Pinto. But knowing that, man, everybody wants to say what Brady did. Brady had 201 yards. Man, that's pedestrian. Let's be honest. The 3 touchdowns, great. 1 sack, and he only lost 6 yards. But Kansas City just didn't look right, man. They didn't click. So was it more defense or was it just that day they had a bad day? I could sit here all day, man. But what's your thoughts?
I was telling people who were watching the game with me. The best way for me to sum it up, and I was explaining this to him during the game and why I thought that Tampa was going to win, is if you go back and think about golf. You think about the Tiger Woods effect. And a lot of professional golfers will talk about, how intimidating it is to be in the same group with Tiger Woods when you're playing, just because of, the buzz around him and, the crowd and everybody's watching him, and, you just kind of afterthought. And I think Brady kind of has the same effect when he's under, especially in playoffs. You get in a Super Bowl and you got to look over to the other side and you see Brady on the other side. It does something to you mentally, because you feel like you have to be perfect, and if things start going bad, that can affect you mentally. And Tom Brady, much props to him. Tom Brady, he might be the only person in the history of NFL to get a Super Bowl check and a pension check at the same time. He's still doing his thing. And, another person you give a shout out to is the coach. You know, I saw the story on him before the Super Bowl where, he had retired or he had went into the broadcasting booth and decided to go back. And, much props to him. I mean, you got Brady too. So
Yeah, yeah.
that helps you out a lot. But, it's just a good, feel good stories to watch and to see. And Kansas City, the good thing with Kansas City is they're a young team and maybe they needed this. But it'll be interesting to see how, Mahomes bounces back from this, how the team bounces back, because it makes me kind of think back to Russell Wilson, when he
Mhm.
did the two back-to-back Super Bowls and, early in his career. And, he hasn't been able to make it back to another one since. He's still playing good. I'm not taking
Right.
away from him, but, sometimes when a team is hot, you got to take advantage of it while you're hot because, things can turn really fast in this game.
It's fact that you even brought that up. We were talking about that the other night on one of our other programs, and you go back and you look at man, and I lost his name. The gloves, the Miami Dolphin quarterback. Damn, I can't
Yeah,
believe I just. Yeah, he went with the first or second year of his career, and he never went back. Never threw for 100,000 miles, but he never went back. They never had a running game. They never had the defense. And obviously, looking at Kansas City, we wouldn't think that those things are going to fall off that drastic. But you're right, man. Everything's not automatic. I think I was probably one of the first ones to say, "Oh yeah, he has a chip on his shoulder. Mahomes is going to go back out there." But it ain't just about Mahomes, man. People gonna want to start to get paid. Let's make it Tariq Hill. He's a weapon, and he's playing on one of those first year contracts. He's going to want to get some money. Travis Kelsey, he's one of the top five tight ends in the industry, in the business. He's going to want to get paid. Defensive players are going to want to get paid. And as much as you like to think that these things are, hey, I'm a great teammate, everybody ain't Tom Brady willing to take a cut, because we know that window is small. And if you're going to get paid, what are we going for? Money? Are we going for rings? And sometimes, hey, you got to go for what you need. And that sometimes is money to take care of the family.
Yeah, that's a great point because people don't a lot of people don't kind of understand that that's going on in the background. They say, why would this player leave this team and go to a team that's not as good? But the football NFL career is so short, and you never know what's going to happen. And it could be ended the next day, the next game, the next practice. And so knowing that, you sometimes you have to take care of yourself and your family, first, before you can start to, look at bigger pictures. When you got someone in like Tom Brady's shoes where, he's been doing it for so long, he takes a little less money, to benefit the team. But not everybody's in that position where, they've been able to make a lot of money, or they got a supermodel wife that's making more money than they are.
Right. Yeah. We all have that, right? Yeah. Oh, my wife was worth $500 million. I'll only take 15 million this year. Yeah, that is a big thing. But now I know it's not in the same sport, but if anything from a professional athlete, what they have learned in watching Isaiah Thomas and what he did for the Boston Celtics, that one season where he came back, he played on the bad hip, played on the bad knee. He was supposed to get he's supposed to get bags on bags on bags on bags, at least $100 million contract. And then he was cut. So, you're right. When people see, you got to look out for your money at that point, because they didn't treat him like he was anybody other than another guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no, I know that. Now, here's another question to you. All the praise is going to Tom Brady on this big win, which, hey, I'm going to give Tom Brady his props. I'm sure in the locker room that he was, doing the whispering in the ear and getting you motivated, like, dude, we can do this. We can run through this wall. But as a defensive player, damn well the defense won that game. How would you have felt knowing that Brady got all the accolades, but you busted your ass out there to get the win?
You feel normal because you know that that's always the way it goes in the game. They should have two separate MVPs in the Super Bowl. They should have one for the quarterback and then one for the rest of the team, because nobody else is going to get, an MVP usually. Most of the time it's going to be the quarterback. The quarterback will get the praise. The quarterback is the one, that kind of gets that stat. It's like a pitcher, the starting pitcher in a baseball game. They get to win, no matter what, happens, out in the field and defense. But yeah, so most players are used to it. And speaking of whispering in the ear, with Brady whispering in people's ear, I'd like to know what he was talking about with Matthew.
Yeah, yeah.
Apparently he had to call and apologize about something. So I'm a little interested. I'd love to know what was said in that exchange.
No, and that's the truth, because Ty said, "Yeah, I can't repeat it." Like, well, I know he didn't get racialistic out there. I know Tom Brady better than that. But was he talking about mamas? Was he talking about hairstyles? Yeah, that would be an interesting topic. But it was hilarious because Tom was walking away. Then he looked like what the fuck? What did he say? He said,
Yeah.
like he stepped on his white shoes on the bus. He just turned around. He was about to whoop that ass. But hey, he's the GOAT, and the GOAT. He is the GOAT, correct? I don't need to have to check myself with you. Tom Brady is the greatest ever.
Oh yeah, he definitely is. And he solidified that, this Super Bowl, because to be able to leave New England, where, before this season we were all talking about, who was responsible for all the success in New England. Was it, Belichick, or was it Brady? Belichick or Brady? And I think, everybody comes, to the consensus that, they both, had a hand in it. But I think Tom Brady just showed this year that he, kind of was the main reason. Without him, I don't think that they, come close to all those Super Bowl appearances or Super Bowl wins that they had out there in New England.
Yeah. Well, I look at this, and I think we probably talked about this before. We look at the comparisons between, every sport, every athlete, and we look at a LeBron James, and, I'm one of his biggest fans now. I wasn't in the beginning. He beat my Pistons like they owed him money, as his second year in the league, that kind of just gave you the thoughts of what was going to happen down the road. But when you see him now and he's talking to, the players on his team, and, he kind of getting in people's asses, tell them, hey, no, don't be here, be there. And when I do this, do that. Tom Brady does the same things. He's telling people, I can't remember the center's name on Tampa Bay right now, but he was saying, hey, Tom Brady taught me a new way to get him the ball. You go, you've been in the league for 10 years. What the hell is that? But guess what? He tried it the new way. So, the value of someone like Tom Brady is just not about those stats at the end of the game. I'm sure it's the locker room. It's the practices when they were out on the field in August, when there wasn't any 101s or whatever the drills are called, and, just bringing everybody together.
Yeah, you have nothing but respect for players like that, because one of the most important things that allows them to get that respect is when you have a great player that doesn't just talk the talk, but they walk the walk too. That means a lot, and it sets a good example for all the teammates, because anybody can just go out there and try to, tell you what to do, be in your ear, barking at you. But if you seeing them, week in and week out, putting in the work on the practice field, putting in the work in the meeting rooms, sacrificing them, their time, all of that they have on their own, then when they come to you and talk to you about it, it's a different level of respect, because all they're doing is asking you to make the same commitment that they're making. And obviously the way that they've been doing it has been successful. So you want to follow that, you want to do your part and live up to it. And you use it as motivation when they come talk to you.
And let's not forget the avocado ice cream. He's sacrificing flavor and taste, eating. I can't even imagine what the hell avocado ice cream would taste like. I'm not. If you ever have it, I'm gonna let you know I'm not trying it. I'm not.
Listen, you get to become a D lineman by eating avocado ice cream.
Yeah, I'm sure that's right. Hey, we're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about Kansas City and even more importantly about that offense of Tampa Bay. Is that the real MVP, Todd Bowles, or, was it just luck? It's the highlights. Boom. All right. Come back, come back. So, where we at? All right. And now, boom. All right, welcome back to the highlights, MP, my man Big Jinx. And man, this is crazy. This is Brady's fourth Super Bowl after turning 37, which matches the total of all other starting quarterbacks after the age of 37. And that's John Unitas and John Elway twice and Peyton Manning. Dude, that's amazing. Amazing. People after 37, hell, they just trying to figure out how to, they finally figured out how to handle their paychecks and bank account. And here's this man winning more Super Bowls, man. Your thoughts?
It's incredible. I mean, obviously, quarterback is a position where you can have an extended career, especially nowadays with all of the new rules put in place to protect quarterbacks and help, to extend their health, which will extend their career. But it's still impressive because you still don't see it every day. And I'm not saying the new rules will take anything away from him because you still have to go out there and do it. The rules could help you a little bit, but you still have to go do it. And he's definitely gone out there and done it, and he's continuing to do it, which is impressive because, it's been some great quarterbacks, that have played in the game of football. And he's just standing out and he's doing things that people haven't even come close to doing. And I think it's going to be hard for anyone to ever match what he's doing.
Yeah, no, I look at that as well, man. And you put him up there with Michael Jordan, the consistency that he had of winning 3-3, and Brady's right up there with him. Now, I'd have to commend you on that one. Now, let me ask you this, man. We're watching the game, and you knew that Mahomes had done a lot of running. He ran for 468 yards to avoid defensive tackles in the whole entire game, man. 400. He had to be effing exhausted after that. I I can kind of say, yeah, his toe was hurting, but it wasn't hurting enough for him not to run that 468 yards out there. Do that was that just the recipe of beating Casey?
I think it was. I think Tampa's D line going into it. They've been getting after quarterbacks, and the entire defense has been playing good. And I'm not sure, the name of the DB, but like one of the defensive backs for Tampa, they said he had an interception in every single playoff game. Going into the Super Bowl, and the defense has been playing good and playing at a high level. And I think that, the game plan that they put in place, for whatever reason that, not Tampa, but Kansas City wasn't able to get or sustain, any drives. They were held without a touchdown. And you're talking about the highest scoring team in the NFL, or one of them. You're talking about a quarterback that's got more points per game since he's come in than anybody else. And it speaks a lot in Tampa's defense.
No, it does. And that Tampa defense, that it goes back to Todd Bowles. Obviously, I don't think we saw this when he was the head coach of the Jets, but now seeing this in the way that he's been able to put it together, it's almost like the Bill Belichick, Tom Brady scenario with, hey, if you give me the right pieces, I can pull the defense that I know that I can put together off. So with that said, and it doesn't happen a lot, man. Unfortunately, in football, it's an unforgiving sport. Once you get a couple chances, and I'm not going to go into the whole dynamic right now because that's a whole nother topic, especially during Black History Month. But the majority of the coaches, they don't get another shot, man. Does he deserve another shot?
I think he does. And, I had the pleasure of playing under Todd when I was with Philadelphia. It was a short stint because, they ended up changing coaching staffs, brought in Chip Kelly. So he wasn't D coordinator for very long out there with us. But he definitely, gets a lot of respect from the players. He's the type of coach that He's not going to try to, you know, he's not going to try to be disrespectful in the way he deals with you. He deals with you as a man, but he also expects you to be a professional. He expects you to get your job done. And that's what you want in a coach. You want a coach, that's, yeah, they're going to, understand that you're your own individual person, but also they're not going to let up on their expectations on you. But they'll communicate that with you in a respectful way. And also they'll listen to their players when their players, have something to say, maybe want to give a little input on how they feel like things are going or what may be working or what may not be working. And so, I'm sure, he's got the respect of his entire defense.
So we're looking at this defense out there. Obviously, to me, they remind me of what they put together back in the day of the old silver and black, the Raiders. Like you said, your boy out there, Jason Pierre-Paul, what he's been going through, the whole hand thing, and Ndamukong Suh, stepping on balls. It's just that Leonard Fournette gets cut. They told him he could have played in the NFL when he was 8, and then you just get these band of guys together,
And
and that's what. Huh?
Antonio Brown.
Yeah, oh, how did I forget AB? AB, he's been claimed to be insane, damn near. And you get all these guys together, man. Does this kind of go back to what you've always told me? And in our conversations, when you had that chip on your shoulder, and then you have Tom Brady in front of you, where you just like, you know what, mofo, I'm gonna show you guys. This is what I do.
It speaks a lot to the leadership, coming from the coaches and the leadership coming from the players, with the Tom Brady in there, because you see that there's teams that can do this, where they can bring in players who may be outcasts and, who may have issues with them. And then they get on the right team. And all of a sudden, you don't hear about any of those problems anymore. And I know Green Bay was another organization like that, that would bring in players. Sometimes players, they could, people could wonder, there could be a little buzz around them of, are they a good guy, a good locker room guy? And then they come in and it's just the atmosphere and the leadership that allows them to flourish in those environments.
Well, and that's so strange. That's one thing I've always believed in, is that you could get selected by the wrong team. That your whole career could just get shit on because you went to the team that the guys up here, and as much as they're billionaires and all these high executives, they don't know, they don't know how to run an organization. You look at Pittsburgh Steelers, man, 3 coaches in the last 40 years. That speaks volume, because it's not about the coach, it's more about the organization. So like you said, yeah, when we get this whole thing, Bruce Arians, God bless his soul, you just look at the way that he put his staff together, from the African American staff members that he had, the female staff members. It was cheesemo, about me being the big boss, swinging the big stick, ha ha ha, big stick. But it was more about him putting together something that he truly believed in. Am I kind of off on that one?
No, you're not. He brought in guys that that he was comfortable with, and each team, each coach, they have their different levels of comfort with the coaches that they're looking for, the things that they're looking for in coaches. And sometimes I feel like when coaches go to put together a staff, that they can get a little too technical with it, where they want to get the guys that are the X's and O's guys that can draw up the perfect X's and O's plays. But you can have the perfect play call, but if you can't bring out the best in your players and make your players feel comfortable enough to be themselves while they're out on the field, then it doesn't matter what play is called on offense or defense. A player has to be able to go out there and feel comfortable with maybe taking a chance, feel like, okay, if I have this, I know as a defensive lineman, if I was pass rushing and I didn't feel comfortable, like I could make an inside move, because the inside move isn't something that you just make because you feel like it. You have to take into account the whole, defensive scheme when you do that. Because if you take an inside move and you lose contain and that ball gets out on you, you just messed up the whole defense. And, players have to, when they go out there, they have to feel comfortable that if it's the right time to do something, that they could take those chances and they have the full support of their coaching staff to be able to do that.
When something that we haven't noticed a lot of in the NFL and something that they've been doing for a while in the NBA is you see these players, and especially these dominant players the last couple of years. And I'd like to say LeBron was the first one, but I know it's happened before LeBron. But Kareem kind of did it, where he left Milwaukee, then he came to the Lakers, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, it's the rebirth of Kareem. We noticed this quarterback shuffle where these older quarterbacks are going to teams and they're making a difference. And we had the same thing just happen recently where we had Detroit's own Matt Stafford that he got traded to LA, to the LA Rams. Do you see this being something that Rams may be able to benefit from, or is this just another one of those scenarios you look at and go, yeah, they're swinging, but I don't know if this one's going to be a hit?
I think it's a win-win for both teams, both organizations, because, to me, Stafford and Goff, they're not too far apart from the type of players they are. And they both can, put up, big numbers and make great throws at times and be successful. But I think that, their confidence in the teams or the coaching staffs or the organization, the relationship just wasn't the best. And so I feel like a fresh start for each quarterback could benefit not only the players, but the organizations, because it could give them, a refound motivation to just go in and have a different atmosphere. You got, different teammates, different, coaches and people where maybe they value your opinion a little differently than, someone else trying to just come into the organization and force you to change. And so I think that could be good for them. And it also gives each team, some time to find, their next quarterback in line, to maybe draft someone younger and give them a little time to develop. So I think it could be a win-win for both organizations.
How crazy is it that the number one and the number two draft pick from 2016 are now looking to be traded and or have been traded, Carson Wentz and Jared Goff. That's kind of unheard of. We've seen where the number two may not pan out of the number three, but now that both of these guys are gone, man, like you said, is this really just part of these guys, wearing out their welcome, man, or sometimes you just whiff?
I don't know if it's a whiff. I just think that something changed because both of these quarterbacks started out their career with the teams looking impressive.
Good.
Yeah. They were, going to be the future franchise quarterbacks of the NFL. And, something just happened. And who knows what that was that happened, whether it was, maybe within the player, within his mind, within the organization, maybe it was a change of coaching staff. Well, I know Philly had the same coaching staff up until now, but it's interesting to see how they'll respond to the change now. They might go somewhere else and be able to pick back up to where they were at the beginning of their careers, and then everybody will just be looking back and saying, well, maybe it was just a relationship issue within the team that they just need to change the scenery.
Well, the one thing I know, both of them are leaving with big checks in their pockets. They're gonna have to hire somebody to bring them bags with them. Which is, I think that's the crazier part of all of that, man. So, hey, football season is over right now, people. My season has started. That'd be the NBA. When we come back, we're gonna talk about the association and see what's going on and who's making it and who's not. It's the highlights. Good segment. Good segment, sir. You act like you actually know this sport.
Oh,
yeah. Oh, shit. 13 years. Jesus Christ, man. You are a stud, bruh. All right, NBA, what we got? Oh, this is easy stuff. This is easy stuff.
NBA is not as easy for me.
Oh, I know. That's why I get to show up now, son. This is my joint. All right. Welcome back to the highlights, man. We got a great amount of games coming up. We are in the meat of this season, and you know what? It's been fun up to this point, man. I'm excited about it. I know that. Oh, excuse me. That morning voice. LA's looking great. But LA is not the team to beat right now. If you can believe it, the team right now to beat is, yes, they're in Salt Lake City, and that would be the Utah Jazz. They put a spanking on the Celtics last night. The Celtics came to town and they won 122 to 108. Donovan Mitchell went off for 36. Shaq has been on his ass talking about a bunch of trash on Donovan. And in fact, he's taking the credit for pumping this team up and putting them on the run. I don't know if he's the reason, but man, looking at these guys, they haven't been this good since 2001. 19 years, cuz. And here they are looking good. I don't know if it's sustainable, because teams that aren't used to winning sometimes don't know how to win consistently. And looking at these, and I think that's in any sport. You can once you get looked down. What Mike Tyson says, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, as we just saw this past weekend. When KC got punched in the mouth, they was running around talking about who hit me, and it's going to be interesting to see if Utah can sustain this.
Yeah, it is. And shout out to Utah. It's been a long, rough road for them. Hopefully they can sustain it because they need it. They need to get back to the old school where the Jazz were always a team that is at least going to compete, and be a
Right.
force in the league. But you're right. The NBA is a long season, and can you sustain it? Because what you do early on in the season doesn't always translate to what you are later in the season. And so it's going to have to be something that they stay on top of. They don't get happy, they don't get big heads, and they work on keep improving because you're still in that same conference as the Lakers.
Right.
And you've got to continue to improve because no matter what the Lakers are doing, if the Lakers, have the best record in the league or the worst, or the 8th seed, as long as they get in the playoffs, LeBron is going to be playoff LeBron. And AD is going to be AD. And so they just got to continue to improve so that, when they get to that next level, they're still able to compete, and I'm talking about the playoffs is in the next level.
Did you I know that you played 13 seasons?
Yeah, 13 seasons.
So in your 13 seasons, I know you met a lot of people. Have you become friends with any NBA players or?
Nah, never.
No, really.
Never friends with NBA players.
Okay, because the one thing I see how LeBron, how he lauds Tom Brady, because obviously those two are right up here in their leagues, and you just see how you guys just respect what these other guys do. And the reason I bring all this up is that we have a brother of longevity like yourself who just got traded, one Derrick Rose, still playing at an elite level. The New York Knicks look like they're trying to compete. Don't know if what they're going to do. We obviously know everybody goes out there to win a championship, but Derrick Rose is still playing. He's averaging about 16 points a game. He left our boys, the Pistons. I think he loved being in Detroit because it gave him that urban feel. But going to New York's not going to be any difference. Can Derrick Rose at this point? Do you think he's still that guy who can make a difference with the New York Knicks?
I think he can, but I think that his mindset just has to be a little different from what he used to be. He's still a great player, but we know that he's had some injury issues in his career, and so with that being said, that's what I mean when he needs to just be a different player, take a different approach to it, where he doesn't feel like he has to be the old Derrick Rose that he used to be. He can still lead a team and be a great player, by being a different type of player out on the court, setting up more opportunities for his teammates where it takes a lot more pressure off of him and his body. But Derrick Rose is, he's a player that from what he's done in this league, you can't help but root for him and want to see him succeed because, he's been through a lot,
Right.
and went through some unfortunate, uh, injuries and things. And he keeps fighting, though. He keeps fighting, he keeps bouncing back, and he keeps, pushing and always keeping his name relevant.
And it's so fun. I was sitting around the other day and just thinking about when I first moved here, the first March Madness that was happening when I got here in 2008. It was Memphis with Derrick Rose against Kansas. And I just went, damn, that man is old. But, he was only 19, so not as old as one would believe. But yeah, you're right. For what he's been able to do, for the longevity and keeping his head right, because people, and this is why I really started liking Derrick Rose. He went back to Minnesota and he had a breakout game and he scored 30 points and he just started tearing up in his interview, because people had counted him out.
Yeah.
And he was like, "No, man, don't do that to me. I still got a lot more in the tank." And I know a lot of guys say grown men don't cry, but I was able to respect the passion that he had because I've never done rehab. I can't even imagine what rehab even feels like. From one, just being able to walk again, but two, being able to be an elite athlete. So, and obviously, that's something like you just said that you had to respect.
Yeah, it is. And, I did have an opportunity to meet Derrick Rose one time. I was out in Chicago, just walking around, look up, and I'm like, yeah, that's Derrick Rose. I wouldn't say what's up. And, he's really cool, down to earth guy. And so we had a quick chat, but he's his mindset, like you said, getting emotional like that. That emotion doesn't just come from that game, and then he scored points, and all of a sudden he got emotional. That emotion, that emotion comes from all the work that he put in, to get back to where he was and to see that, it's paying off and he's able to get back to it because, it's a tough journey. And I always tell people, one of the things that I look back on in my career and I appreciate more than anything is the journey. All the accolades or Super Bowls, playoffs, anything like that, all the sacks, they don't mean as much. It's the journey that you look back on and you appreciate because you know what you went through. You know how tough it was. And to look back and think like, wow, I fought through all of that. It looked bad a lot of times, but you fight through it and you get through it and then you succeed. And once you're able to succeed and make it through that, yeah, you can feel a little emotional then.
Yeah, no, and it has to be big respects, going out there. Talking about getting emotional, it was a great week for the silver. Well, we assume it's all going to be silver and black. We had Coach Flores, who finally got his opportunity to get the big call to go to HOF. Then we had a good friend of yours, your former teammate. You won a Super Bowl with him. I don't know if you had the opportunity to see his clip when the big fella walked up on him. But
Yeah.
yeah, Mr. Charles Woodson has made it to the big show. It's an amazing clip because, first of all, when the guy comes up and Charles is doing his interview, Charles looked like he's about to whoop somebody's ass for stepping
Yeah.
up on his interview. That was so funny. He turned around like, "Who the hell is stepping up?" And then once he started to put things together, he went, "Ah, this is what we doing. Okay, y'all got me. Y'all got me."
I don't know if Charles thought TMZ was rolling up on him in his backyard or something, but yeah, the look on his face at first, he was like,
Oh yeah, he was about to put some hands on somebody, and then he figured it out. Then he looked at his wife and his mom. He's like, "Old woman, I love you, mom, but you got me too, because I thought you were just coming out to hang." And it was just a beautiful thing. And to see his emotion afterwards, I know that being someone that you went to battle with, on a weekly basis in the NFL, man, you really had to appreciate him getting that call.
yeah, it was well deserved for him, and I'm happy for him. He definitely deserved it. Uh, Charles Woodson was not just a great player, but he was a great leader on the team. I saw him so many times working with the young players, the young DBs, and helping them to succeed. And I don't think a lot of people realize this, but Even the year we won the Super Bowl and the years that he was there with us, we had a lot of undrafted defensive backs that ended up, playing well and making names for themselves. Sam Shields, Tremont Williams, and a lot of that had to do with Woodson. Woodson would take the time to work with those guys, to teach those guys. Woodson, he would even move to safety if needed, during the games, if it helped the team so that nobody else would have to, so the younger guys could come play corner, and we all know that corner was his position. But if he needed to move around and he needed to, to do anything to help the team, that's just the type of player he was and person he was. And so, I'm happy for him.
That's a good thing. I had an opportunity to meet him when I came to see one of your games, and he did seem down to earth. He's like, "Oh, you waiting for Jinx? Oh man, that's cool, that's cool." And then he asked me if I wanted to take a picture. Like, yeah, sure, let's do that. Let's take a picture, big fella. Yeah.
Charles he's a normal person and he's the coolest heck. I know when he first came to Green Bay, I had some people tell me stories about him. So I was kind of nervous at first, and I was wondering what type of a person he was going to be, because you hear some of these crazy stories going around about, he may be a little arrogant, or he was one of the most normal people that I've ever met. A quick story about Charles. I used to go into the training room, and Charles would be sitting back in one of the trainer's office watching Days of Our Lives during our break sometimes. I used to go mess with him all the time, but he was just annoying. If he wasn't watching film, he was watching his stories.
Oh, that's awesome, dude. That's awesome. And you said something that a lot of us don't really put to mind. I mean, just like me, I know you as, and I say it, my little cousin, and that when we at family events, you're just Cullen Jenkins. You're not Cullen Jenkins, Super Bowl champion. You just little Cullen Jenkins. We talk trash. We have fun. We do the family picnics together. And a lot of folks just don't realize that athletes are just humans, who just happen to be playing a sport that they love, and somebody wants to give them a lot of money to do it. And it doesn't change anything about you. And of course, like you said, you have your LeBron Jameses, your Tom Brady's, but they didn't ask for all this. This is just a byproduct of them being great, correct?
Correct. And yeah. I always have this saying that I tell people. I said we're normal people with popular jobs, and that's all we are. Our jobs just happen to get put on TV, and a lot of people like to watch, which is what makes athletes famous, or even whether it's an actor, actress, or anybody that's in the spotlight. But they're just somebody doing a job that just happens to be a popular job.
Yeah, you know what, and that makes sense. And before we go on the next break, something that I have to talk to you about, man. We were talking about NBA. Brooklyn Nets didn't get off to the start that they wanted to get off to. We won't get into that topic. But the one thing that is kind of driving everybody crazy is the COVID and the COVID rules. Kevin Durant was told he couldn't play in a game. Then they told him he could go into the game in the first quarter. He went into the game, and then at the third quarter, they said, "Oh, wait, you can't be in the game because of protocol." So they took him out of the game and had to have him sit down, man. They're trying their best. Obviously, I understand this, man, but how frustrating would this have to be? Especially, like you said, this is your livelihood, and you guys don't get paid if you don't play. And, even more importantly, trying to be a teammate for your team members. That would have frustrated anybody, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it frustrates the player. Kevin Durant, frustrate his teammates, the coaching staff, frustrate the fans. And this is something that, it comes from the higher ups, the people up top who make these rules and are putting these rules into place. It's not like the NBA. The NBA is a lot different than other sports, because the NBA already had a season.
Yeah.
They finished out their season during COVID. So this is their second time around. So they've had an opportunity to get all this stuff, set up, the rules in place to understand and know what they're going to do. And so that's got to come from the top. The people that make these rules, they got to do better, because you can't do that to a player. tell him he can't play, then tell him he can play, put him in the game, and then tell him he can and take him out again. And I think that's worse than what happened to Dez Bryant, during the football season when he went back to Dallas getting ready to play, and then right before the game they told him he couldn't play. And I felt bad for him because I know he was emotional and he was frustrated. But I mean, just imagine if Dez Bryant was told he couldn't play, then they put him in the first quarter, then they sat him back on the bench again and told him he couldn't play. Like, you're messing with the mindset of the whole team at that point, because now the team is looking around confused, wondering what's going on. They've got a game plan going into the game. They change the game plan when they feel like he can't play. Then when they say he can again, and they go back to this game plan again and who they're going to play or who. And that's very unfortunate, for them that happened.
No, it really is. And like I said, I was watching the game, and I know that they have not gotten the start, that being the Brooklyn Nets. And for them to have something like that, man, they got to do better. And again, understand what we're going through. And I'm not even trying to minimize that, but you said it right there, man. You guys have done this before. You've crowned a champion before anybody else was able to crown a champion. Hell, they didn't even have any positive testing. So they should have been able to work something out a little bit more. We want to give mulligans, but at the same time, giving these mulligans are affecting a lot of people. So, hey, we're going to take one last break, and we come back. It's the Night Doctor and see what he has to give with his funky self. It's the highlights. Boom. Yeah, that's it, man. And we got in 46 minutes. Now, that was perfect. That was perfect.